You are here listening to Her Red Boots podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Gore, here to share my heart with you. Let's do this. Welcome back. It is an awesome Friday or whatever day you're listening. I am so glad you're here joining us. Today is really a good day, and I was thinking about this just today, I guess, this idea of how God creates us at just a certain time. And I just want to encourage you before we jump in and pray that, like, God, that was the God that created Esther for such a time as this, and what God did in her life. He's the same God that was with the disciples, and God working through the disciples' life as the same as today. And he positioned you in 2025 with great purpose. And it's not like just happenstance or whatever. Like, you are here today because God has purpose driven into your life and woven into your story, and he loves you. And there's something so good about today that you can't let it pass by. And so I just want to encourage you with that. And so God, we just come to you and we just thank you for life. We thank you that you've given us life and life more abundantly. We thank you that you've given us hope, and we draw on that hope today, that you called us and you fashioned us and you've purposed us for such a time as this. And we just love you, God. And we ask that you would minister to us today, but God, that our lives would be a testament and an encouragement to others. And so we just ask you, God, for divine opportunities and strategic ways that your kingdom can advance in and through us today. In Jesus' name, amen. So I want to encourage you about God. I just felt like he said to me, like, to remind you that he's coming. And I know that's like a duh. Like, we all know he's coming. Like, or most people would say, oh, I know he's coming again. I mean, go to the end of Revelation and it tells us to say, come, Lord Jesus. And so, but when Jesus was alive and he was talking with his disciples, he pulls them aside. He's on the Mount of Olives. It's in Matthew 24. And he's like expressing, like, when is this going to come to like the capacity in which we understand that this is just temporary, but the fullness of the ages, like, what are you going to do? And how is this going to happen? And he's like informing them and giving them information about what is to come. He's speaking over them. And he's telling them, and I just want to encourage you with what Jesus said to them. He says, see to it that no one leads you astray. And that just like started stirring in my heart. Like, what does that look like in 2025? If Jesus was speaking that to them and he was giving them these principles, this wasn't for like a moment, but then like, bam, it's going to happen. Like, this was longevity. Like, don't get led astray. Like, when I like die and I'm resurrected and you're still here and you're serving me, like it says that others will come as a Christ. He's making it known, like he's showing them like, look, people are going to come and be like, I'm Christ, but don't get persuaded by them. Don't be influenced by them. Don't get led astray by them, because this is what it looks like. This is what I'm saying. And he kind of goes through, if you go and open your Bible and you read Matthew 24, it's going to share with you, like, this is what it looks like. And this is maybe how it will feel and what you'll experience, but like how good he is and how much he has a plan in it. And he's really fashioned that you would choose to believe him. You would choose to follow him wholeheartedly. Like, you would go after that. So when you like go back into like your story and your life right now, and he was to sit with you like up on your couch and say, hey, don't get led astray. What would that mean and look like in 2025? And there's lots of religions out there, lots of books about religions out there. Like, so that's obviously an influence in the world, what other people believe. But I think people have the ability to influence us and lead us astray more than just like a book in a store or this or that. And so how does that function in your life? Or is there anybody in your life that's influencing you that could be leading you astray? And so I started checkpointing in my life, and I started looking, okay, I've got followers on Instagram, or I should say people I'm following on Instagram. And have I really checked in the space of Instagram and said, okay, well, who am I following and what do they believe? And do I really want to be influenced by them? Like, I've been influenced just to buy a hairbrush, or I've been influenced to like, oh, if I just had that. You can be influenced in your emotions by getting the next vitamins or doing this. You can be influenced in what you believe. Like, there's so many people out there talking. There's so many people saying things, and they're saying what they believe. And then you're taking it in, and it's so fast too. It's like, bam, you look at another video and they're saying something. Bam, you see another video and they're saying something. They're going from like, listen to this next song to listen to this next episode on my podcast to listen to this next like thought about relationships. So listen to this next thing about your diet and exercise. So listen to this next thing about what you should buy. I mean, it's just like the input is at its maximum. Like, people's input, they're taking in a lot of information in like short snaps of time, but like so much is being consumed. And so I started thinking about that, like, as I started following this girl and she was doing giveaways, and it's clever. Like, I just want you to understand, like, I don't think it's so blatant as we actually think it could look like. Like, no one's going to take me away from Jesus. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's so sly. The enemy is so sly. He's so crafty. He comes in and he just like weaves in like mysterious ways where you're like, oh, that's not even going to affect me. And I started like realizing, like, this girl, she's giving this giveaway, and we have like desires, like they do all these, like, they get promoted by Disney. And so they're giving a Disney giveaway, or they're giving like this like incredible package of $10,000 away. And you're like, if I just had $10,000, I mean, there's a lot of people like are hungry for those like giveaways. And so they connect to others. And then they're like, if you follow 10 people, these 10 people, then you're entered in. And I even saw one, and I was like actually surprised by it, because it said, if you go, you can be entered in if you go on this person's page and you follow everyone they're following. And I was like, that's a lot of people to have an influx into your like capacity. And then, my goodness. And then you don't actually have a checkpoint of who are all of these people that out now have access to your mind. You don't think about it like that. I don't always think about like, oh, that person has access to my thoughts, because just pause and say, have you ever watched something and you've thought about it again? So they actually have access to your thought life in the ability to like weave in and say something. And then you're now thinking about it and you're dwelling on it. And now it's either affected your mood, it's affected what you want to purchase with your money, it's affected this and it's affected that. It could have even have affected your relationships. And so in that like space, that's where I'm saying you have to have some sort of guard against that space, because you need to have some checkpoints of saying, is somebody in that space believe something I don't believe that could end up causing me to walk away from Jesus? And it's not like you should walk away from Jesus, but I mean, I was following somebody that didn't believe in Jesus like I believe in Jesus. And I was like, their life really looked beautiful. Marriage was beautiful in the reels and in all the screen. Their family, they had this like glorious life. They did not believe what I believe. They actually believed something against what I believe. And I started being like, okay, am I allowing access for this person to influence me to believe something different? And I think that that's really important in today's society, that you start recognizing where the influences are in your life and what you're going to listen to. What are you allowing access to your heart? Like, some of the things like that you can be listening to are not lined up with the word. And so I'm encouraging you, like, if you're listening and you're taking something in, and all of a sudden are you like, I'm believing that or I'm not believing that, but have you actually taken that one little thing and said, am I believing it based on this? Like, is this in the word? Is this truth? It's really easy to like have that influx of people that could lead you astray from who Jesus is. And so I believe that there's an importance of us having an influence in who Jesus is in our friends' lives, in our communities' lives, in the places that you have a realm of influence? How often are you conveying who Christ is? People get into hard situations, get into messy spaces. And are you declaring, no, this is really who God is? God is your provider. God is able to meet all of your needs according to his riches and glory. When they're in a sticky situation and they don't know how they're going to make it, are you declaring who God is? Or are you just like, oh, I don't know, maybe follow this person. Maybe you could win that, or this or that. And I'm not saying that that leads you away from Christ, but there are times that are very convenient for the enemy to come in our weak space. And so it's easy even at night when you're sitting and you're scrolling and I'm mindlessly doing this. And then all of a sudden the enemy has his prowl out, like, I'm going to get this space. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to cause unbelief to come into that space. And now they're going to have to deal with a place of unbelief or fear or anxiety. And that could end up taking them away from who Jesus is, because Jesus is all those things that are not those other things I listed. And so it's so important that we would guard what we consume in the totality, even in what you're listening to in music. What is it saying? What are you feeding in the songs you're listening to? Is it feeding your depression? Is it feeding your flesh? Is it feeding your sensualities and all the passions and the lusts and the greeds of this life? It's so easy because our flesh loves to be fed. Just true. And that's why Christ says that we should crucify our flesh every day. Because every day we need to have that crucifixion of our flesh and say, we're not living by our flesh, we're living by the Spirit. And the value and the importance of knowing who Christ is. I think that it's more important than we understand that we might know him. Dig in a little bit deeper into your walk with Christ. You might know about 10 or 20 or 30 things that are happening in our world, but do you know who Christ is? You might be up and up on every great book, and you might be able to say, I know everything that happened in these books. And if you had a book quiz, you'd win, but do you know who Christ is? That if you saw him, you would recognize him when he's coming again, that you would be so familiar with Christ and so aware of Christ that it would be so evident that when Christ is coming, that if anyone came and said they were Christ, you'd be like, the heck no, that's not Christ. There's no way. That's relationship. That would be very evident. There's people that do games and do mystery things where they stand and they're like, could you tell if it was your husband based on his hands? And they all put all these hands with stuff, and somebody has to go through and decide who is their husband. Well, how do they know that except that they've felt, they've touched, they've seen their husband's hands, that they could pick them out of a group of 10 hands. That's the same with Christ, that you have to know Christ in such a way that you could say, I know his heart. I know his voice. I know his position. I know his authority. I know who Christ is. And these guys, when Jesus was saying this, they were walking with him. And when you go through, there's so many people that end up doubting and walking away. People are walking away from Jesus even in this hour. So there is such an importance, and you can't say, well, that's not me and that would never happen to me. That's not true. The enemy prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whomever he may devour. That is evident that there's whomever it is, if they're in their space and he can get him, he's going to try. And so it's very important that we resist the enemy so that he flees from us, that we actually know our God, that we can step into the space of making him known. Because there's a world that needs to know who he is. And I'm calling you out, friends. Maybe you're not feeling oh, I don't know, I'm not being influenced in any way. I've got my guard up. I'm good. But are you also making him known to others? And so I'm going to give you a story of something that happened that I feel like it's important for you to I don't know. I just think it's really cool because this is my testimony from this last week of God doing this in my life. I sit and read my Bible at coffee shops. I work on messages at coffee shops. And so I was at a coffee shop and I was sitting there, and people walk in and out of the door. I love being outside if it's nice enough outside. And that day it was nice enough outside. And this woman was walking towards the door and I just happened to look up and her shirt said dead inside. And I was like, that's a terrible shirt. that's a terrible statement. Like, that's hard. Like, that's hard for me to take in. Like, and she's wearing it and she bought it. Like, okay, Lord, like, and so she walks in and I'm just like, okay, I'm not walking in there to like go and find her. Like, even though my heart was towards her and I was having a conversation with God about it. And this is the part that I want you to understand, that this is the importance of you knowing and hearing God, is that you would actually have that conversation with him, that you wouldn't see somebody and just be like, oh, okay, well, that's sad and move on. No, God, what are you wanting to do in this moment? Like, in asking him, like, God, what is it that how could I minister to her? What could I do? But goodness gracious, it takes a whole lot of boldness sometimes. So I was telling the Lord, I'm like, I'm not going to go into that store. And so, that's my bad. But I said, God, if she comes out here and she sits in the tables over here by me, then I'll go and talk to her. I put this ultimatum out for God, and he's like, yeah, you don't know what I can do. And I'm like, I just think it's so fun. God is so fun. And I was like, shoot. So anyway, so she walks out and I catch her walking out, and she's walking towards the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm not, that's good. I don't have to do anything. This is so bad. I'm so sorry, Lord. But she walks to the car. The lady in the car, there was somebody in the car waiting for her. The lady like stands out of the car and she's like, do you just want to go sit over in the tables? And she's like, yeah, we could do that. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And they both walk over and sit at the table. So there's these two ladies sitting at the tables. And I'm sitting in my chair, I just like laughed at God. And I was just like, God, you really love her so much. And I just felt like he's like, you need to tell her that I love her, but you need to make it known that I see her. And I was like, okay, Lord. And I really didn't feel anything else. Like, I was just like, all right, I don't know how to do that exactly. And I feel awkward. And it is easier when you go with someone than just by yourself. And I was by myself that day. But I did. I sat and I was like, I tried to get up, and I was like, I was like a brick. I did not want to get up. I'm being honest with you. Sometimes, so I reached out to a friend. I was like, just pray that I would have boldness. And so she's like, okay, da 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 da. I was like, all right, Lord, like there's no way I'm out of this. Like, I can get out of this. This is like so cool what you're doing. And I did hear, like, this is probably what encouraged me the most, is as I was sitting there, I had listened to something, and a guy was sharing about like making a decision. You're sitting and you're trying to make a decision, and he's like, when I'm sitting making a decision, I have to sometimes, and I don't know what to do, I try to figure out what's the best story. And then I do that. And that came to my heart. And I was like, okay, like sitting here and not doing anything is not creating an opportunity in this woman's story. But me stepping into that place could create an amazing moment for Christ to speak into her story. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be willing, Lord. And so I walk over to them, and, and I'm like, I know this is strange. I think I start that with everything. I don't know. But I was like, look, this is what happened. I saw you walking in, and I felt like a heart for you. I didn't say anything about our shirt. I just said, I felt like God had like wanted to like encourage you or speak to you or love you. I don't remember my exact words. And so I was telling him, like, when you walked in, like, if you want me to like encourage her, like if she sits over here, then I will do that. And then you walk to your car, and then the lady that was with you, which was sitting with her, I was like, and then you told her, like, can we sit? And I was like, and God just wants you to know he sees you. Like, and he loves you. And I'm like, I'm here and willing to pray for you. And she's like, I would love for you to pray for me. And I was like, what do you want prayer for? And she's like, my health and my shoulders. So I laid hands on her and prayed. I didn't see a visible miracle of her healing, but I was believing that God would heal her. But as I was sitting, and I turned to the lady that was sitting with her, and I was going to offer to pray for her. And she's like, I don't need prayer for anything. This was incredible. And she didn't convey it in words, but in her face to me, it was like, I have been praying that God would show himself to my friend. And he just did. And that was enough. And I just think that that's exactly what we have to be doing. We have to be making Jesus real. We have to be speaking about who he is, that he sees people, that he loves people, that he knows exactly where they're at, that he can actually change the course of their direction. And I felt like part of the story for her was that, like, that in me sharing what my part of the story was, encouraged her to see that God was really involved and invested in this woman. And so I'm encouraging you to not just sit back and just think, oh, Jesus is coming, yay. But like, really, like, what does that look like for me to participate and make ready his coming? And if you go to verse 44 in chapter 24 of Matthew, it says, you must be ready. And I'm thinking, like, how much do we need to make ready ourselves, but also to make it known to others and get them to be ready, to encourage them in who God is, and for them to not lose heart, for them to not give up in the middle, to not quit when it gets hard, to build endurance, to build strength in people. And how do you do that except through Christ? Everything in the natural fades. Everything in the natural gets weary and tired and exhausted, and you can only, carry it so much and so long. But through Christ and Christ in us and us conveying that, it gives strength to people in the middle of difficulties, in the middle of them feeling like, I don't know. You can say, but I know who, this is who God is. And even if you can't see him, he's working. And even if you don't understand and you don't know, you can know that he's the God that knows it all. And he's the God that's able to do more than you could think or imagine. And for you to know him, you need to dig into the scriptures. You need to say, God, who is it that I can reveal today through whom you've made me to the people that surround my life? How do I reveal your love to somebody that doesn't know that you love them? How do I show that you're a God of wisdom and knowledge that's far greater than somebody that's wise on the earth? How do I make known that you're the God that's able to heal and deliver and set free, the God of hope? How do I convey that to people? And you can't convey that if you don't know it. And so asking God, say, God, make yourself known to me. Make yourself so known to me. Christ, let me know who Christ is. Even Paul, when you read through him, he says, I'd trade anything that I might know him. He would give it all up just to know him. Like, this is the worth and the value of knowing him, because knowing him will sustain you. You can know a lot of things, and some of those things are just trending things, and they fade, and they have no existence in anything but that one moment of time. But you have Christ in you, and that Christ is the hope of glory, the one that's able to make the difference in any situation, in every situation. And by faith, nothing is impossible if you choose to believe. And so you have to put that out there for people. You have to make that known. So I'm encouraging you that in this next week, that every day you would find a friend to encourage and remind them of who God is in their lives. And then I encourage you to step out like me and be bold, even if you're afraid. Be bold, even if you're like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't have to know what you're doing. You don't have to have the perfect line of everything to say. You don't even have to walk away and feel like anything happened. You just have to obey. You have to be willing to say, God, I'm going to obey you when you start nudging me. And whatever happens, I'm going to leave it in your hands, because I'm going to do what you've asked me to do. I'm going to say what you've asked me to say. And I'm not going to have like any not hesitation. That's not what I'm going to say. Just like giving it to him. You're just giving him all. Like for me, I walked away and thought, I don't know if that made a difference at all. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened in her life. I never saw her again. But I'm believing that it made a difference in her life and that God would change her life. And so I was very encouraged on Sunday. Following this, there was a lady testifying about praying for someone and having the same feelings I did. And that lady said, like, in a couple days after she had prayed for someone, the lady came back and said how much God had changed her life. And I just banked in saying, you know what, God, if you did that for that lady through a simple prayer, how much more did you do for this lady when I prayed over her? And we have to really encourage one another with the testimony of what Jesus has done and what he will do, because that is a part of us overcoming. And that's a part of who Christ is in us, that we might make him known from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, so that we can say anyone around us, they were not led astray. We put our guard around each other. We surrounded each other with truth and light and hope and freedom. And we did not let the people that are in our lives fall away, because we prayed and we believed God. And so I'm encouraging you again and again and again, because I love encouraging you. But like for real, like do the work of the kingdom. Just get busy. It's such a great opportunity that you live in this day, because I believe God is doing incredible things in 2025. There's no time like this year. There's no time like today, like for you to walk out the call of God and to make him known and to remember that he's coming. He's coming for a beautiful bride. He's coming for you because he loves you. And he has like such an excitement in his coming. There's great plans in his coming, and it's going to be so good. So I bless you. I hope that you have an amazing day. If you have a testimony of something God has done, like send it to me. I want to be encouraged by what God has been doing in your life through this podcast. Comment below, like share this with a friend. Let's make him known. All right, friends. Bye.